Cool. Well, hi all, and welcome to another AW interview. I'm Tim Adams, multimedia producer at AW, and today I'm honoured to be joined by Hellah Sidibe, who earlier this year ran from LA to New York in just 84 days, completing a mesmerising journey of 3,061 miles. In doing so, Sidibe became the first Black man to do the LA to New York route and raised awareness about the importance of running shoes from the perspective of his childhood growing up in Mali. Hellah, well, welcome to AW.
Thank you for having me.
How's life at the minute? And it must be pretty crazy to look back at what you did earlier on
Yeah,
this year.
it still is. There's many times every day, pretty much. I'm just like, wow, I actually did this. Because sometimes when you're in the middle of it, you don't really process how big of a journey this is. We're talking about over 3,000 miles. It takes me a year to do that many miles, but I crunched it in what less than a quarter or less than a quarter of a year. So it was really, really exciting, but also it's like why it actually happened. So I smile about it every day when I think about it.
I mean, LA to New York to fly is a long journey.
6 hours, yeah.
Let alone
It's
to
like
run.
it's like coming from the East Coast to Europe. That's how far it is, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, why that route? Is it just because it's a
Um,
famous route, or?
I was actually thinking of doing New York to LA because I know that the city of LA is very, very like popular with vegan food. So my mentality was finish in LA and just stuff myself with all kinds of vegan food. And but after having a full discussion and thinking about it, it made sense coming from LA to New York City instead of New York to LA because of the tailwind. You get a little bit of a tailwind. And I do understand that because every time I fly to LA from New York, it's much longer flight time than coming back because the plane gets a tailwind and the flight is almost like an hour shorter coming back. So the goal was to have the tailwind help you a little bit, but that ended up not even being a factor because I battled through so many headwind, crosswind days where I was just like, what? I was supposed to get tailwind, but there's no tailwind really
I was
throughout the
about to
run.
say I couldn't even imagine what the Mojave deserts and places like that were
It
like.
was it was tough.
Um, so you mentioned being a vegan there. How much of that played into the part of running?
Yeah.
Because of course back in the day of when you were a professional footballer for Seattle Sounders, it was that idea of just running 10 minutes every day to see how it would go for 2 weeks, and then look where you are now.
Yeah, so the diet is very important because I think because of my lifestyle with that helps with recovery. It helps with reducing inflammations in your joints and any swelling, any soreness. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but it reduces it significantly, and also it kind of expedite the process of your body getting ready for the next day as much as it can. So I think food was a huge factor in this, even for me running every single day for the last 4 years, almost going into year 5. Actually, today is day 1,597 consecutive days. So fueling is the best thing that could happen to you. And playing in the professional, actually, I was playing under the Seattle Sounders affiliate, Kitsap Puma, that's the team in Seattle, Washington. When I was playing out there, we ate how we wanted to eat. We were like, oh, we'll burn it off on the field. Playing Division I soccer in college, we ate how we wanted to eat because we're like, oh, we'll burn it off. It's just gonna be fine. I can go eat a big cheeseburger, oily, meaty. But to realize that, imagine if we were to even eat better at that point where we were very good athletically, but we weren't feeding our body with the proper nutrition. If you put two and two together, you always think, man, I could have probably done so much better. So food definitely has been a huge factor in everything I'm doing right now, physically and mentally too.
I remember watching the Game Changers documentary on Netflix and
Yeah,
seeing the Titans. I think they changed their
yeah,
diet to kind of a vegetarian vegan diet, and I think they got into the playoffs of the festival in about 15 years. So it
yeah,
worked for them, and it's worked for you clearly.
yes, for sure.
Yeah. So talking about the route, then, I guess the perspective of growing up, and I mean, let's firstly talk about the charity and the impacts of shoes, for example. What
Mhm.
what perspective of your childhood did that give you to then figure out, yes, this is the charity that I want to be a
Yeah,
part?
so it really relates to me well. Even if you go to Mali today, you go back to my country, you'll see kids running around. Yeah, some of them will have sandals and stuff on, but you're gonna see a lot of them that don't have proper footing. They have nothing. They're barefoot. So I grew up running around barefoot. I always talk about this. If you look at my feet and the bottom of my foot, you'll see scars from cutting myself. And it could be metal scraps. It could be just pebbles, like hard rocks. That it could be anything in the dirt, little piece of stick sticking out when you're playing football or soccer in outside. So it really related well because to the first world, shoes is like a almost like a fashion luxury, depending on the kind you have, a status, and for us, it's a safety thing. Yes, we want to look cool too. We want to have a cool shoes, but the number one priority for shoes for us in Mali, I can speak for Mali, is for safety. And I thought that was something very important. And to think about it, all you need is a good pair of shoes to go on a run. That makes a huge difference. A lot of people ask me, how can I run without feeling pain and stuff? Sometimes you got to get the right shoes, right? You got to make sure that's going to get you going. So it was perfect. And the reason we did uh, Souls for Souls, it was the fact that not only that they collect unwanted shoes to use their new, they do clothes too, but their goal is to use that to break the cycle of poverty. So not just giving people shoes, but showing them what they can do with their shoes to have a mean of living. The saying is, you teach a man, you give a man a fish, he can eat for a day, but you teach him how to fish, he can live forever, kind of thing mentality. So I thought it was perfect, and I was so happy that's the nonprofit that we chose to run on behalf.
Yeah, I read the quote from you recently. You said, "I think if you grew up in a country like I did, everything is a luxury. I was the brokest person you can imagine in college. Even
Yeah.
after college, I didn't have a cent in my name, a dime to my name, but I grew up, and that was still luxury."
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty powerful, man. When you
Yeah.
think about perception, perspective, because it is almost that, the realities of life converging, and obviously they're two different, realities and experiences.
Yes, exactly.
And for you, how did that relate to the running then? Because
Uh,
I guess, going through pain barriers, and I
yeah.
remember,
So
yeah,
you always think about anything you go through right now. For me, so my biggest I think the best blessing for me is recognizing that running was a privilege for me, and it's a privilege that not everyone has because I'm able to physically actually do this. So that changed my mentality. So when I'm going through anything, I'm just saying, remember why you're doing this. So when I run for a reason. So having that nonprofit in the back of my mind, the goal was, no matter the circumstances, get back to New York City, raise awareness to collect as many shoes and as much money as possible to give to this nonprofit. 100% of the proceed, that's what they use to help people around the world, everywhere, first world country, third world, second world, anything you can imagine, really. And so having the back of my head, that's all I needed. So it helped with the running. Yes, I had to be physically ready and mentally, but also the mental part is reminding yourself why you're doing something. And when you have a reason, yeah, it may take 10 years, it may take whatever. My goal was, I said 100 days or less, but in the back of my mind, I wanted 85 days, and I ended up doing it one day less than that. It gives you a little bit of a drive to keep pushing, so you take care of the business that you set out to do.
so how do you even prepare for something of that scale?
Yeah, I like that question because the fact that I actually been running every day over 3 years leading up to this was technically a training that I didn't even know that I was training myself for this. And the reason that is, I've got thousands of miles underneath me, hundreds of miles throughout the months. So that was preparing me, not even so much physically, I think mentally, because day in, day out, I got out there. I don't care what the weather is going to be like. Sometimes I try to avoid the weather, but you like it or not, you can't control Mother Nature. You just have to be out there. So that was a huge preparation within itself. And I didn't even think but that was a huge, huge step. So the second preparation was knowing when it was going to happen, started to think about where I want to put my training to. That means running slower because it's about using less oxygens. Running in zone 2 at your heart rate being at zone 2. And also running longer distance now consecutively to get the legs used to it. Running on tired legs, you want to make sure your legs are beat up because that's bound to happen. So a few 3 to 2 months out, so that was like the goal. going slower. In fact, I wasn't even running slow enough. Some of those training, to me, it was slow because if you're running in a 6-minute mile pace, 7-minute mile pace consistently, when you drop to 9-minute mile pace just to run to get something a training underneath you, you think that's really slow, but that wasn't slow. I should have been in the 10 to 13-minute mile pace slow. But in the way that my body was used to, that was slow, but it wasn't even enough. So, some of the things that I learned. So, and I started doing a lot more strength training, added weight to incorporate, to add more mass, more strength to my body, and started eating more to gain a little more weight because I knew I was going to lose a lot, and which ended up not being as much as I thought. And that was part of the preparation.
So you're setting off from LA. When's the first point in that journey you think to yourself, oh man, this is going to be tough?
Actually, it was when I had my IT band issue. I think it was still in California in the mountains. So I was running up the mountains and I didn't know, like there's ultra running is a different world than running. So when people, especially ultra trail, when they're in the mountains, the saying is, I don't know if you guys I heard of the book Born to Run or whatever. I was listening to that part of the journey. If it's a hill you don't see on top of it, you don't run it. You got to walk up that hill, because when you don't know when you're going to get to the top of that hill, and when you get to the top of the hill, you're not gaining any time anyway. Your legs are so beat up you can't even run down. So you're actually losing more time versus taking your time to get up there and then cruise down. So my mindset was, I'm not here to walk, I'm here to run. So I was running the mountains in California, literally running up these mountains that are it was just insanely, like, it's basically at incline for 3-4 miles at a time before you have some kind of descent or flattening. And that hurt me a lot. Swollen knee, the back of my knee had a sack of liquid sitting there. The side of the knee was hurting, IT band. So I was getting nervous at that point. It wasn't so much of, oh boy, what did I get myself into? It was more of, oh man, am I going to be healthy enough to be able to finish this on the time that I want to finish? So that was scary. And I had to kind of, you kind of have like a talk to yourself and talk with the team. So how can we fix this and get through? So that did happen at some point in California before getting out of there. And Arizona didn't help at all because there's more mountains in New Mexico, and a lot of rolling hills in Oklahoma until we got kind of in the Midwest toward Illinois.
I was about to say, how did the team help you? And, you know, how big was your team? I know Alexa obviously would have been an integral part of that, but
yeah, it was just a team of
generally
3, just 2 other people and me. It was Lex and Garrett, my friend, who was driving the RV. So it wasn't even a big team. And I didn't even know that we were in a tough situation. So anyone that's done the Transcontinental, or the ones that I've talked to, they had a crew. We're talking about a big crew. So I'm actually proud of us for just being us. It was just me and 2 other people. And someone that I'm friends with, I've done this, right, B. Ballinger, he didn't have less than 4 people at a time. In fact, he would have like 7 at many times, but no less than 4, he told me. So he had so many avenues of having people help him and being there. And for us, to just figure it out. And in fact, I actually, to almost the first day, I didn't know who was coming with me. To me, it was just me and her, because people committed, and next thing you know, people started dropping out. And I really realized, that like people are excited. Oh, I want to do this for you. So never really be skeptical, because the last minute, literally, I had people drop out. And it was really scary to think that I have nobody, just her, and she can't drive the RV, and she can't do all the stuff that she has to do, feed me, and then be the map, pretty much telling me where to turn, and also safety and getting content. I'm a content creator, so it was nerve-wracking, and just having 2 people to do it was just, I think that's something that I don't give enough credit to, because at the end of the day,
yeah, 100%.
That's not enough people to do a transcontinental, and I wouldn't recommend it, because there's so much stress, especially on one person, and there's not enough people to take on the loads of the stress to focus on certain things. And you have to figure out where to live, like where to sleep overnight. She was doing all of that. And my friend driving the RV, dumping the RV, refilling the RV with fresh water and things like that. And it's just, that's the thing that, even not thinking about it, it's like, wow, the fact that we're able to do this, just us, is just, it's unreal.
The only thing I can relate that to is I interviewed a guy called Rob Pope, who you might have heard of earlier on this year, who's kind of nicknamed himself the real life Forrest Gump. He comes from Liverpool in the
Uh-huh.
UK, and he ran the route of Forrest Gump in America, and
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw something about that. He was
he
actually
had
like
to
dressing
stay in
like
like
him.
loads of different places. I think he had like a camper van, and then he had to stay in an abandoned warehouse at one point
Yeah.
on his journey. Yeah, I mean, but from your perspective, then, as the journey went on, I can imagine people got wind of what you were trying to achieve, and the longer you were doing that, was it a case of that people were kind of aware the next day you were about to go into a town and they would kind of give you gifts, or they would actually roll
Yeah.
you arm in arm?
I mean, I had some followers in New Mexico, which I was really shocked, in the Navajo reservation. There were people who were huge Gymshark fan who I'm sponsored by. That would come in because they knew what was happening and find me. But also, as like you get into New Mexico, you meet somebody, and then one of the natives, they send a message further up. There's a runner coming up, so they kind of prepare for you. And then having the social media platform I have was definitely a huge help because people were following because we share everything. My Strava is for people that go look at the route. My website had my route where I was trying to go through. So people will kind of put it one and two together. So they'll see Hellah's usually starting at 7:30 in the morning. So he's doing about 40 miles. So if I get out at this way, at one point I'm gonna drive on this road, I should catch him. So people will do that and find me. And some people will drive hours at a time and miss me, and some people will get me and run a few miles. And so that's been really cool when people were finding me and joining, because it helped a lot, especially mentally when you're just by yourself outside running. Sometimes in a straight line for 40 miles a day for a few days, there's no turning. And when people come in, it makes it feel like a different day, a new day.
I was about to say, for motivation, that must be an incredible feeling too, because
Yeah,
it makes it worthwhile. And it's kind of, I guess you think to yourself, oh, we've got loads of people digitally who are, giving
yeah,
money and contributing to the campaign. But if you're in the middle of a desert, you're not seeing that in front of your eyes. Whereas
yeah,
actually having people in front of you that's the inspiration behind it.
yes, yes.
Um, so talking about being on your own, I'm aware that you had hallucinations
Oh
during
yeah.
the run.
Many.
How were they, and how did you mentally adjust to them?
I just knew because I did some research after I had my first one. I started Googling on my phone. I knew if it happens that I'm not going crazy, and I just embraced that time and said, "Okay, that's fine. It's part of it's normal in the ultra world where it's just that your mind is just done. Your mind is just overused. You're not sitting. It's just go go go." So I've seen stuff. I've seen bears that weren't there. I've seen mountain lions that didn't existed. I've seen people in distance that weren't there. I thought there were people walking toward me, coming to help, and I was just done. And at one point, I thought there were people coming, and I was like, "No, there's no chance. It's just two mailboxes." And for us to get close, and it was actually two people going the opposite direction. So you go through so many time where like you see a cow from a distance, you think it's a bear. I've seen a black puppy, a dog, small dog, and I'm screaming, running across the road to have Lex unlock the car because I thought it's a cub. If it's a cub, that means the mama bear is around, and there's no chance I can outrun a mama bear right now. I can't even when I'm fresh, let alone that my body is just really tired and I can barely lift my leg with these runs. So I would have like these little moments I've had.
Wow.
Yeah, and then the thing when I started seeing snakes, I would see shredded tire, like semi truck tire far away. You think it's alligators, you really think it is, and even you would see states, you think it's snakes coming at you until you get close, but you're kind of panicky, and it's not snakes. And one of the funniest thing that we saw, it wasn't just me, it was Robbie Ballinger came out to pace me one weekend, and it was a really like warm day. It was just sunny, but it wasn't like hot. It was just warm, but the sun was like beaming down hard. And you see this, sometimes you see this uh like reflection on the ground. It looks like water, kind
Yeah.
of from the
Yeah.
sun. But from distance, we thought it was a car. It was a car windshield with the angle of the ground. We thought a car was driving at us in the side of the road, not being in a road. So Robbie and I are looking at each other. Is that a car? And we're freaking out. we're like, this is weird. And to find out we were both hallucinating, making things up, because he was tired that day too. He
So
just,
where was that at that
I
point?
can't remember the state exactly. It must have been in New Mexico. It must have been in New Mexico. And seeing that, it was just like, okay, what's going on? And then we both looked at each other as we got close. We were laughing really hard. We're like, oh, it's the sun. And the reflection looked like the windshield of the car. It was such a low ground. It looked like it was coming up a hill. And he was really tired because he had just done a race also, which is like last man standing, I think. I don't know. He did some kind of run and he came in to help me while his body, or he did the New York City loop or something, and his body wasn't even where it needs to be. So he was also tired. So we both were hallucinating that day.
Well, at least it was the two of you. At least it
It was
wasn't
two of
one
you.
of
Yeah, it makes you
you.
feel a little better that I'm not the only one that's a little cuckoo in
Nice
the
one,
head.
man. Nice one. It wasn't
Yeah.
just hallucinations, of course, that you encountered on the trip. Obviously, being the headlines after
Yeah.
so I'm guessing you would have discovered that being the first Black guy to do that route.
Yeah.
You're almost a trailblazer for future, people
Yeah.
be doing that in the long term. And obviously, you encountered racism, and
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've read a few stories about police encountering you, and
Yeah.
a couple came across, and the police only believed you when the couple actually went, oh, you're that guy running that route. How was that
Yeah.
experience?
It was before the run, knowing what's going on in America, and I told people that America is actually much more beautiful and better people in it than what people say or what we see on social media. And I truly believe that because I've met so many incredible people helping. They'll see me offering water. Random people offer you, do you need a ride? I'm like, no, I'm running across the country. But in the light of that also, but there was also a little bit of the other side. And that happening even before the run, I asked Robbie, I keep mentioning him because he did it. When I wanted to do this, I Googled people doing this and we found him, and I finished his last 17 miles with him from New Jersey to New York City. So I asked him, how did you feel safety wise? But I was thinking about myself as a Black man, but his answer was be careful about dogs. That was his concern. Because he was saying he's getting attacked by dogs. He's telling me maybe get a Coke can, put rocks in it, shake it to scare the dogs away. But he also was thinking about me being who I am, even though the conversation didn't come up like that, but he did tell me he was thinking about that. And even for him, we did the same exact route. It was the same exact, and we modify ours a little bit at times and toward the end. But we got cops call on us every single day, and mostly Lex. So think about that. And yes, a lot of them were incredible. They were doing their job. The cops are there for the safety of the citizens, and they came in just to check to see if she was okay, which is what I want. Every time that happened, I'm like, yes, they're doing their job because something could have been going on wrong. But also, it was a lot of them coming in like mad that there's a runner on the road, mad that somebody give them a phone call. Oh, we have a runner on the road. Like, and at times I would even try to not go into the race side. I want to everything perspective. I'm like, well, maybe this is the reason. You try to like kind of like be open to it, to look at it from a different view. And there'd be a town that's 5 miles away, even the police encounter with a gun situation. I could have been a guy running from that town going on a daily run. What's wrong with that? No one go running. That's not allowed. And the fact that I have a safety vest that's showing in your face that somebody's here, having a pull with me to help me with my legs, should all tell you that, okay, he's exercising or he's doing something crazy, like going long distance. And that happened. And with Robbie doing the same route as me, he never got the cops call on him. He is a white American. And he said, in fact, that the two encounter he had with the police is because they got themselves in trouble, being on the highway when they're not supposed to, and one of his crew member being outside in a public with not fully dressed in a police tank.
Okay.
Yeah. So thinking about that, it makes you only think, okay, because of the skin color that I have. And the scary moment for me was an officer coming in Oklahoma. I was just smiling, excited, because a few officers prior to him were just like wanted to know, excited what I was doing. They saw me somewhere on social media or heard about it in the town, wanted to say hi, and I would take pictures with him. He came in and said, hey, why are you running? Immediately I saw his energy. He wasn't happy. And I said, I'm just running across the country, explaining to him why I'm doing it. And he said, I got a phone call. Like, what are you doing out here? He still wasn't, I feel like I was answering, but he wasn't listening. So what got me nervous when he put his hand on his gun, and there's always a leather clip holding the gun down, and that was flipped off, hands on the gun. So that's when I started panicking, showing my running pole, explaining I'm wearing a safety vest. And I had Lex Bell, I call, she's on the side with a car. I didn't want to whip her immediately because I didn't want to think that's an accomplice that we're about to team up on him and I get gunned down. So I'm like holding, and she's staying there because she always knows I have good interaction with the police. It was just nothing out of the usual. And when he started asking, what's your give me your license. I said, my license is 5 miles ahead in the RV. I stop every 5 miles. And it got really rough till, like you said earlier, I saw these white couple. I knew they were waiting for me because usually no one really would be in the middle of nowhere kind of doing a U-turn to look for to wait a little bit. And they started walking over and said that they know what I'm doing and said the exact same thing I was saying to the officer. They wanted to come do it and take pictures.
But the officer,
and then he's like,
you, really.
Oh, so he's really running across the, I was like, I told you. And so at that point I was waving Belle to come in and just to see the situation. But that she didn't know. She brought her camera like she usually would and take pictures. And he asked me, can I have a picture too? I took a picture with him. I think this is the first time in a long time that I had the fakest smile of my life. I was smiling, but inside I was burning.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, because I'm like, wow, that could have escalated really quick because you didn't really understand what I was doing. And you came in with whoever called to tell you what's going on, and they're not me. You should ask me the question and take my answer for what it is, as that's what you're supposed to do. Unless it's not, that's what you signed up for. But yeah, after he left, I was so shocked. I had to stop for a few minutes, and that's when I relived it. And that was one incident. The other one was in Missouri. Prior to the racial slur, I get flicked off by this truck driver going by, and I'm like, wait, is he flicking somebody else off that cut him off? And I look around, there's no car to be seen. At that point, I had Belle. Sometimes she wait far enough so she'll find a parking spot, and then she'll come in when she doesn't see me in her view. And I was like, well, I don't know what I did to you, but I'm on the opposite side. And he looked at me, clearly flicking me off. And literally moments later, as I'm going by OMG High School, school was coming out, a bunch of teenagers in a pickup truck. Just one of them decided to stick their head out and yell racial slurs at me. And I was just like, really? Come on, man. And I saw the car, I saw what was going on. And yeah, that happened in Missouri. So I was really shocked to see too. And I was like, what's the point? I'm just trying to run across the country. And I know a parent saw her did because she slowly kind of did another turn and then come in and look at me and wave. She kind of wanted to say, hey, I kind of saw without saying it, and she felt bad. You can see it. Belle thought it was someone, because sometimes people literally get off the line. It's like they're almost going to hit me. So she thought that's why I was screaming. So she saw that happening. She honked, because she always honk. She always alert the cars. And it's not like I'm right on the road. I'm literally I'm on the dirt pretty much on the side of the road. And yeah, so I just went on my Instagram and just talked about it, because I always do a recap and talk about everything that happens throughout the day. Someone must have reached out to the school, and next thing you know, it started kind of catching fire in the town. And they knew who it was because there's only so many people with a truck in that high school. And if you say a truck, it's not like every kids have a truck in that school. So even if it's 10 trucks, it's one of you drivers. Whoever gets in that car after school is one of you kids. But I had people reach out. The principal wanted to talk to me. I had an officer DM me and say if I can describe the car. There's like a Facebook page going on, and people decided to say, hey, if we couldn't welcome this guy in our state, let's help and push out for his nonprofit to donate. So donations were coming in from Missouri. Well, it ended up being a positive media, isn't it? Thing. Overall, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the impact that it can make. I mean, now you've had that, man. Like, what perspective do you have now when looking back at those incidents of the journey?
I mean, I just look at it. There's gonna be good people and there's gonna be bad people. So you just focus your energy on the good and keep moving forward, because you can't. As much as you want this world to be a perfect place, there's just some people who, I don't know if it makes them feel good to be to be rude, to be mean. I don't know what they're going through. It could be whatever it is that they're going through. You do your best to shine, to help, to bring that good energy. But if you don't receive it back, you just have to just keep your head up and moving and keep moving forward, because you can only do so much, because some people do want to change, but some people also don't want to. So you just make sure you're living a good and honest life. And if you can't help anybody or do something good or positive, just keep walking your own lane. So I don't think it's worth bringing anyone down. For what reason? No one's better than one another. So we're all equal in every way. And we just, if we can't help each other, just keep moving. That's what you got to do. So it makes you really think about that more.
100%, 100%. So towards the finish line then, in New York, was there any point of the journey which you ever considered potentially pulling out? Because was there ever a case where you hit the wall?
I've hit the wall many times. There wasn't once, many times. I had so many miserable days. Miserable meaning like, why am I doing this? Miserable meaning your body, everything you're going through so much. But there was no point ever that I thought, I'm not going to do this. I'm not finishing this. Nope. I told myself maybe it's going to take 200 days after what I went through today, if I have to battle with that every day. But there's no way around it. I just knew my only way was to get to New York City. That was the mentality. And I was going to get there one way. And so, but the finish was incredible. The night before finishing, actually, I finished by a park next to my neighborhood. In my town in New Jersey. So I had people receiving me the day before, and the day after, I didn't know. Going back to that location where I stopped to start. First of all, Casey Neistat, for those who don't know Casey, one of the biggest, awesome guy in the world and the social media platform, just a great guy. He's done so many incredible things, social media and non-social media. To be in front of my house to surprise me was really cool. And we went to the park where I stopped, and just to see hundreds of people waiting for me. And the town mayor was there, deputy mayor was there. We had the fire truck with the huge American flag. It was, I did not expect. I don't even know how they squeezed people back there for me.
That must be amazing.
Yeah, and it was just so many run clubs were there with the runners. So people started with me running from Jersey. We were police escorted out. And people were jumping in and out as throughout the route, the last 20 miles, and getting closer to New York City. I had a bunch of other friends and group coming in and joined the run. Family flew in, drove in, and friends drove in. It was just really cool to be escorted by NYPD in the city. We basically took over 2nd Avenue. Literally, we had what is it called? A float with music, DJ blasting and playing.
Yeah, like a parade.
Playlist.
Yeah,
it was a parade, and everybody's staring on the city. They're like confused. What is going on? Just recording off of their phone, and just to get to the finish line, which was really cool. It wasn't quite expensive, and to get to the finish line, to see a bunch of people waiting for you behind the finish line, it is something that it made you forget everything you went through. All the pain you went through, you immediately forget about that. You're like, wow, this is worth it, because I didn't expect that at all. It was all a surprise to me. I just knew maybe a few people come out, family and friends, just to be there the last day. But it was, humbly, it was definitely the biggest finish of the transcontinental history, I would say. For the 300 plus people have done this, I don't think anyone had a big of a receiving as I did. And I'm very grateful and blessed to have that experience. And even Robbie being there, his finish line was incredible. There's so many people there and news. And he even said, even I wasn't at his was incredible. He even said, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. And it was just, I don't even know how to explain it. You had to be there. I can't even tell you.
I was about to say, it must have put it in perspective when you were, running alone for 40 miles in a desert. Well, I say alone, but with Robbie, and then you got that compared to the finish line, and you think, actually, as you just said, the whole thing is worth it.
Yeah, that's literally how it made you feel.
Because you didn't just have that, but then I'm right saying you had the proposal at the finish line as well?
Yes, I did. I had that plan. It was in the back of my head before I even started. and I had family members in Massachusetts and get the ring. So in the end, I had that plan and
So not a
did that,
bad
which was,
place with the crowd to
yeah, it was
do
the
that.
perfect timing because family, friends, and people, friends from afar, people I didn't know. I just consider everybody as friends. Anyone that came to support were friends to me. And it was really cool to have everybody witness that, which was really, really awesome.
Yeah, man. When I watched that video of you crossing the finish line, the only thing I could really relate it to was Elliot Kipchoge doing the Ineos challenge.
Ah,
You what I mean by that, like
that was awesome to watch.
you've got Elliot, who's got everyone in front of him, behind him, on the side of him, and then
Yep.
you've got you in a fairly. It wasn't obviously 3,000 odd miles in less than 2 hours, but even
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
you had that experience of this is your moment, this is your reward for the perseverance of the trip,
Yeah.
and again, like looking back at that now, what do you make of that?
It's just amazing. There's parts, one specific part that I really think back to where we were running what, 11, 12-minute mile pace at that point throughout to get to the city. And as I saw that finish line, I just started telling Robbie, my friend Garrett, hey, we got to move out of the way. Like I was ready to put it up, and then to run a 7 or 7 mile split from going that far, I had this adrenaline rush through my body, and my Achilles was flared up, and it was really tight, and I was scared to rupture that in Pennsylvania all the way to the finish. I just numbed everything and just started sprinting for the finish line because you get this new life and energy in you. And having that experience with people, like you were saying with Eliud Kipchoge, it's different run, but at the end of the day, it's like making history in one way or the other,
Yeah.
and having everybody there. And when you finally see that finish line, and you're just like, not get out of my way, you're just like, I'm ready to just take off and get there because you're there, and nothing is gonna stop you now for finishing it. And as you saw Eliud Kipchoge finish his run, he just took off. He just started telling people, I'm ready to go. And I watched the documentary. That was the plan. When he felt like he didn't need them within 800 meters away, he said, I'm ready to open it up now. I don't need you guys to break the wind or anything for me now. So it's kind of like that moment for me too, when you see that it's like, I'm there now. Let's just push through and go through. And just to name Eliud Kipchoge in this conversation, that means a lot. One of my goals is to meet him one day and have a conversation, and even icing on the cake, go for like a few mile run. He can walk, I'll run, so he'll still be able to keep up.
I was about to say we have to make that happen at some point, 100%.
Oh, that would be a dream come true. He
We
would
have
definitely be, if I can pick any runner in the world to spend time with and run with, it's him.
Well, talking about just the running community generally, not many runners, even people who've been at the Olympics, have much of a bigger social media following
Yeah.
than you do. I think 270,000 subscribers on YouTube is a pretty neat going. How important is that for you? As you mentioned, like with the high school, for example, where that power of social media can connect, people so quickly, and it's at the touch of a touch of their thumb on a phone, which can lead to an explosion of messages and connectivity and whatnot. That must mean a lot to you, that you can be authentic to yourself.
Yes.
And people follow you for that specific reason as well.
Yes. I definitely think it's a huge thing, and I love everything about it. I call my followers hella good family members. They make you who you are, and no matter what, without my following, there's no hella good. It doesn't matter. I've called myself hella good in college because I got the nickname playing Division I football or soccer, you call it here. But there's no actual hella good without the followers, so that's very important. But also to add to that, that wasn't the priority of doing this. That wasn't the main reason. With the following or not, I was gonna do what I'm doing. I wanted it just the whole running thing started because I was afraid of it, and I wanted to find a way to fall in love with it. And I wanted to, for once, hold myself accountable and keep a promise I made out to myself, which was just a 2 weeks goal to get out there and run 10 minutes a day and face a fear, something that I was so taught to hate and be fearful of. And I wanted to change that narrative. So before even social media, it took 163 days for me to actually talk anything about running on social media that I'm doing this. So it wasn't designed. So for people who don't know, they see this following it. I didn't just jump on YouTube. Hey guys, I'm going to run every day for a year. This is the goal. No, it was a personal thing. It was a personal thing that I had to fight for myself. And what happened was Bell kept saying to me, hey, we should do a YouTube video on this. This is cool. And to me, I didn't even know anyone shrieked or anything, which was really cool to not know, because I feel like if I knew, I would start trying to compare, maybe. But I just thought I was the only one doing this, getting out there to run. The only way for me to beat running, to make it something that's not fearful, is to go enjoy it myself. And she would ask me, we should do a YouTube video. I would kind of brush it off. So 163 days in, I finally said yes. And we shot the YouTube video, and the title was Why I Run Every Day. And I think it was an 11-minute video. I stood there and I explained to people why I run every day. And that's the video that went viral, and people started commenting, can you do an update? Are you still running every day? And I put it on Instagram. And on Instagram, I didn't even tell people anything. All I said was the picture was day 163 and 202 days to go. And I put the running emoji, didn't say anything else.
And that was it.
That was it. And someone asked, why are you doing this? And someone else came underneath and comment, he's preparing for life. And I was like, this person gets it. He gets it. I didn't even have to say any detail. So that was what it was for me. And it turned out being the icing on the cake is we build a community off of it. And I think that I'm so happy it happened that way. It wasn't designed for me to be who the social media Hellah is. It came from an honest place. It came from the heart. It came from just wanted to turn something I hated into something I love, which became something I'm passionate about, and which makes it a lot easier for me to get out there every day and do it. And then not just preach it, but practice what I preach, and then walk the talk. And having a community to share that with is incredible. So very grateful for all the followers on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. But also knowing that wasn't the reason is very important to me, because it came from a deeper place. If that was the reason to start with, I don't think it would be what it is today. I don't think there's no chance, because I didn't do it for myself. I feel like sometimes you have to do things for yourself. It's not being selfish. It's just for your mental state and for your happiness, and the good stuff will come along after that.
Man, that's a very powerful thing. What you just said, and I keep thinking, going back to the pursuit of happiness and thinking about the quotes and the morals from that movie, and it really does. I think what you've done does transcend almost running, because it speaks of the wider belief that people can achieve what they want to achieve. Not just putting their mind to it, but actually creating a community where that can inspire others to do that into the future. And on that,
exactly.
What next for you now?
I'm living in the next. That's what I say, because the next is like being stronger again. Because even today, when I went on a run with a friend this morning, we were out there 7:30 in the morning. He said, Hellah, you keep forgetting you're not even 6 months out of this run yet. You're just like, what? We're 4 months out, and you have all these expectations for your body, and you have to be patient. And it's good to remind myself that, because that's the next, being patient to let my body get to where it is. Most people, the couple of people I've talked to that have done this, it took them over a year for them to be like, oh, actually, I'm finding myself in the running spectrum, So I'm trying to be stronger and to move faster than I've been, to run faster like I was prior to the Transcontinental, and not overdo it in the point where I'm going to hurt myself. Being smart about it and letting all these areas of your body. We're talking about, I was hitting the pavement like 3,000 plus miles, when I've never done that faster than a year, to do that in 2.5, less than 3 months. So I have to remind myself that. But I have some few goals that I want to accomplish, not that I don't pay attention to, but I don't consume my energy on that, because when that time comes, it's time to dial up again. I want to do level 100, which run 100 miles at 10,000 feet up to 12,000 feet in elevation in Colorado. And I've had a little taste of that last August. And I want to run a marathon in every continent. These are some of the things that I want to do. And I have a few personal PRs that I want to beat. But the goal for the rest of this year is to hit 5,000 miles. So more to log this distance in. And next year, I want to switch it a little bit to focus on running faster and And that means less miles, which is okay. And I love going out there because I love being out there for a longer time. But if I want to run faster, I'm gonna focus on the shorter distance and speed and go for that. So those are some of the things I'm thinking about. But as of right now the goal is just to heal up properly. It doesn't mean I'm taking a day off. That's not happening. It just means I'm being mindful of my pace and distance when I go out there every day.